Good afternoon, everyone. This is Quentin.
And Anna.
And this is the
Q&A podcast. Today we are at the eAcademy, and we will be interviewing special guest and LDC's very own Katie Parr, who is the entrepreneurial program director of the program we both went through our senior year of high school.
So join us as we introduce the educator, entrepreneur, and national park enthusiast that helped start it all for us. Let's go.
With us, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Katie Parr, and I am the program director over at the eAcademy at Linden Point. And I teach high school seniors all about entrepreneurship and small business management.
Through the path that you did with education and stuff, what made you choose the eAcademy?
So it was kind of ironic. I guess I chose the eAcademy, but it also chose me. It was at a time when the previous program director was leaving, and so there was an opening. I had been in public education for years, and I was starting to feel like it was my time to leave. And so at that moment, I was out in Arizona, and I had decided to move back to Pennsylvania. And when looking online for teaching positions, I had saw that the eAcademy program director was open. It gives me the flexibility to not necessarily teach to a test. I do use a curriculum. It is a dual enrollment class. Students are earning Penn State credits for college, but it allows me to add experiences. So I bring in a lot of guest speakers. We go on a lot of site visits. We have a lot of in-class competitions. So it was a great opportunity for me because I don't consider myself a traditional teacher. I don't like teaching to a textbook. I don't like teaching to a test. And so I truly do believe a lot of learning happens outside of the classroom, and so this job allows me to do just that.
That's awesome. And you talked about like site visits. What is your favorite field trip to date that you've taken your students on?
One of my favorite site visits to go on every year is to the Food Waste to Energy program out with the city of Hermitage, where they take actual food waste and they convert it to energy that they send back to the grid to use. So it's pretty cool. It's a little stinky there because it is a waste management facility, but what they're doing is truly one of its kind. No one else in the United States has a program like that.
Throughout the years of teaching, are there any lessons or maybe anything that you saw a student do that kind of stuck with you or helped motivate you?
So I think it's important to remember as educators that we shouldn't necessarily be front and center always in teaching, but rather the guide on the side. So I remember in high school when I was a senior, even before that really, just in school in general, teachers would talk at us a lot, and we were told to sit, be quiet, listen, raise your hand if you have a question. And so it was really when I had a select few special teachers that really took the time to engage with us and talk with us. And that's really where I learned the most. So I try to incorporate that into my own classroom. I try and pose real world problems for us to solve together. I try and pose questions that we can discuss and debate together. And so I really try and give students control of the classroom for the lessons that are taught. And I think that makes a big difference. At least that's what I've heard from previous alumni of the program.
Yeah, I would definitely say it made a huge difference. The jump from high school to eAcademy honestly felt like a high school to college jump. I know there's the dual enrollment credits and everything like that, but it was definitely a big difference. Learning to not look at presentations when you're presenting, like she said, not having to raise your hand if you have the answer. It just feels like you're treated a little bit more like that adult that you kind of want to be treated as you're growing. So I definitely believe that.
And kind of echoing what you said as well, the title of this episode is The Teacher That Changed Everything. And I think we can both agree in our own eAcademy journeys and experiences that you were just such a stepping stone and such a fantastic educator. And we just want to thank you for all that you've done for this program, but then for us both personally as well.
Thank you guys.
So you kind of reminisced on your time growing up in high school. You went to Sharon, star basketball player over here. What advice would you give to like your 19, 20-year-old self?
That is a great question, and I don't know if I've ever actually answered it before. I would say to find your people, and that goes for both your peer group and mentors. A lot of first impressions are made, and they are made based on who you spend the majority of your time with. I also think habits are built during that time, especially within that peer group. So making sure that you are hanging out with people that you can constantly learn from and that uplift you and that feed you energy instead of draining that away from you, because that does happen. And so I think it's important to just find those people that are constantly supportive, that will help you in situations where you're looking for, guidance and mentorship. And so finding the trusted adults, whether that's a teacher or a coach or a family member, and then surrounding yourself with peers that have the same vision as you. And hopefully that's a vision of success and momentum, moving forward.
What would you say that you do that truly like defines success?
So success for me is just happiness. And if I were to define happiness, which is why I love teaching at the eAcademy so much, it's really finding a work-life balance. So again, this job allows me the flexibility to take my son to appointments and to have the time off in the summer if we want to go on a trip. Sometimes, I'll bring Rowan to class with me and he gets to hang out with the students. And so for me, just finding the balance where I can do what I love in the classroom, but then also spend time with my people at home and where we feel most comfortable, that's how I define success. And it took me many years to get here, right? Everyone finds that entry-level position, and then hopefully you're working towards climbing that ladder. And sometimes that ladder reaches the top and then you need to look for a new position. But whatever is important to you within that career field, for me, it was flexibility of my time. Time is a resource that we don't ever get back. It is finite, it's limited. So I want to make sure that I'm spending my time doing the things I love with the people that I love.
That is so good. Great advice. So you talked about, you're an educator, you're an entrepreneur, but one thing that people might not know about you is that you are a national park enthusiast. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so my family and our thing is hiking national parks. We've now incorporated bringing our son, who will be 3 at the end of September, on these trips with us. He's already been to 3 national parks, so hopefully it's something we can kind of pass on to him as well. But my brother was a national park ranger after college, and so I saw that he was exploring all of these wild spaces and places, and I thought, I want to do that. And so after graduation, my husband and I, at the time we were dating, and we said, let's just pack up and move out west and let's start exploring that side of the world. And so I think to date we've been to over 30 national parks. Our goal is to reach all of them, maybe not the ones in Alaska. I don't care too much about the snow, but yeah, that's definitely a hobby of ours, but it's kind of also my stress relief. Like out in the wilderness is where I feel most grounded and most at peace. So it may be a chaotic trip now with a toddler, but it's still a very calming one for us to try and plan every year.
One more thing, I know you've written books. Are there any books that maybe will come out soon, or anything about these trips that you're going on that you want to?
Sure. So yeah, I've written 2 children's books so far. Anna and her sister actually helped illustrate the very first book I wrote, which is Hike the ABCs, A Journey Through Our National Parks. And then I wrote a second book on our very first national park, Yellowstone, which is called Ranger Rowan's Guide to Yellowstone National Park. And it talks about my 10 favorite spots within that park to visit. I think that second book has opened up the door to write more stories, more adventures that Ranger Rowan can take readers on. But it's definitely not something I'm currently working on. I released 2 books, and I'm kind of trying to build the momentum of sales with those 2 books right now. So if they are successful, then for sure I'd love to write a 3rd one.
For sure.
So we'll keep an eye out for that then.
Yes, please do.
Well, thank you, Katie, for your time today, and that brings us to the end of our episode. So until next time, this is the Q&A Podcast.